Hi, this is Les-Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. What a day this was supposed to be, and I don't mean the weather on March 26th. The Indians were supposed to host the Detroit Tigers this afternoon, and then at 7 o'clock tonight, LeBron James would be making his only trip this year to the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse as the Lakers would be in town to take on the Cavaliers. Every hotel, restaurant, and bar would be full. The streets and the casino would be a celebration of the city of Cleveland. Instead, three major hotels have announced that they are shutting their doors, hopefully just temporarily, and that there is really no realistic end in sight right now. I understand we're all in the same boat around this country, but right now, after losing millions of dollars due to the closing of the Ncaa basketball tournament, today is just another day for Clevelanders to file and forget, but we'll be stronger for the recovery when it happens. We've got Mary-Kay-Cabot here tonight. We'll talk Browns and more. More Sports and Les-Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine, it's a Thursday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into our 24th consecutive season and seen exclusively on cleveland.com. We are so happy to have Mary-Kay-Cabot here, who believes you've covered the Browns either 28 or 62 years. Which one is it?
Somewhere probably in between there. No, I think it's closer to 28, but sometimes feels like 62.
The years kind of roll together, though. How do you, when you look back into the history of the Browns and what you're doing, you do it by coaches, by general manager, by owner? What? I mean, you got a lot of choices here.
I really do. You know, I forget who went with who. I forget which quarterback played for which coach. I forget which offensive coordinator now went with which head coach and vice versa. And, you know, I'll see people at the combine and different places, and I'm like, oh, which era were you from? But everybody worked for the Browns. I mean, when you go to some place like the NFL Combine and you see all the coaches around there, at one time or another, all of them have worked for the Cleveland Browns.
Do you think that's because so many changes are made in the front office that they bring in so many different coaches, or do you think that's just the way of the NFL?
Oh, no. That's the way of the Cleveland Browns. Absolutely. Yeah. This is not happening in Pittsburgh. There's no question about it.
No, but and we'll talk about it later with Hooper and signing here and saying that he got favorable reviews as far as the players talking about former players talking about the city and the franchise, which I found to be nice to hear or listen to. But you would think that based on the changes that have made, that maybe they'd take a second look at what they're hearing. Or wait, I don't know how you can take a second look at what you're hearing. How about another hearing of what you're hearing? How's that?
That sounds good. Well, you know, I think that that's a common theme. Every player that has ever come through Cleveland will tell you that this is such a passionate fan base, and it is a selling point for free agents. A lot of these guys have been in other cities, and they know what it's like to look up and see a lot of empty stands. It's one thing that you can count on year after year, and it has really been the common denominator of my career, is that Browns fans have come back year after year after year. Hope always springs eternal, and fans continue to be excited about this football team.
And there's always some coach who says, I'm the one that can get it done, and when I'm done, I'll go to Canton and I'll lead the parade and I'll lead my induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and there's always, you know, there are always quarterbacks that feel that way too. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I guess it's great that they all feel that way. I mean, the last one we heard that from was Baker-Mayfield coming in and saying, if there's anyone that can turn that team around, it's me. So now he's got that chance.
All right, let's get to it. Lines are open at 216-575-0403. Mary-Kay-Cabot of the Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com is with us. Stephen A. Smith of ESPN was on First Take, and he said, all right, if you're Baker-Mayfield, you got a tight end, you got Hooper, you got a right tackle, you got a fullback in play. Clearly, with Stefanski as the new coach coming over from Minnesota, he likes multiple tight end sets, plus having a slew of running backs to lean on as well. I look at it as the Cleveland Browns have had a pretty good offseason offensively. Defensively, there's a different argument for another day, but right now, offensively, in terms of helping out Baker Mayfield, I think they did a plus. What do you think about what Stephen A. Smith had to say on that one? And by the way, the Cleveland Browns are always a low-hanging fruit that these guys can pick on. But what do you think about the optimism he showed?
Well, I think he's exactly right when he brings up the fact that basically they have done everything possible to support Baker Mayfield this offseason. Now, some of the moves that they've made are designed to help Kevin Stefanski with the kind of systems and schemes that he wants to run. But they're also in place to help Baker Mayfield be as successful as he possibly can be this year, giving him a right tackle, giving him a new tight end, providing him with a backup quarterback that can be a mentor, help implement the offense. So they keep adding pieces to help Baker be successful, and he needs to be successful this year because it's a decision-making season in the offseason.
No question. Well, you can see the recap of the offseason. You see in the bottom right, Evan Brown is the guy they just signed. I assume that's as a backup center, right, Mary-Kay?
Right, backup center to JC.
All right, let's take a look at that list. See, just as you go through it, tell me something that pops into your head when you look at the list. Let's start with Austin Hooper.
When I start with Austin Hooper, the thing that comes to my mind is two tight end set that Kevin Stefanski wants to run, and it doesn't mean that David Njoku is not in good standing anymore. On the contrary, with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski here, new life has been breathed into David Njoku. So those guys will form the two tight end sets, but they also like Steven Carlson, so don't count him out.
All right, let's go to the backup quarterback they just signed in case-keenum, who looks like a guy or sounds like a guy. If needed, I mean, he'll play the mentor role, I guess, if he has to, but he really thinks that he can play if needed. What do you think?
Oh, he is so confident in his ability, and some of the things that stood out to me during his conference call with us yesterday were the fact that he really believes that he can be a winning starting quarterback in the NFL. He talked about coming to Cleveland because he thought that this was an attractive job, an attractive backup job. He didn't want to go be behind a Tom Brady or a Phillip Rivers.
Right.
So what that says to me is that he thinks that this gives him an opportunity to play at some point.
I like when he was talking about Baker Mayfield. He said, well, if he needs to tie his shoe or have some Gatorade, it's okay. I think what the translation is, well, if he gets hurt, don't worry, I can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that he can go out there and win games, especially under Kevin Stefanski, because in 2017, he took the Vikings to an 11-3 record and to the NFC Championship game with Kevin Stefanski as his quarterbacks coach. He's confident in the system. He knows exactly what needs to be done in this particular system. And I still think that he believes he's got a lot left in the tank.
Andy-Janovich, what do you think of there?
Well, once again, nobody loves the fullback anymore, but Kevin Stefanski does. And they got their guy. All of these guys are really good guys, good leaders, good locker room guys, great personalities. They are starting to fit a profile. I think you're starting to see that these guys are going for high character guys that love the game of football. They're going to be team players. They're going to be leaders in their respective rooms and on the team. And I think Andy fits the bill.
Let's skip down a little bit. We'll go to Jack-Conklin, who I think is a major acquisition. What do you think?
I think that he was probably the number one target for them in this free agency period. They went out, they got him, and that's what they wanted to do. And I think it speaks a lot for this current regime that they were able to land the best right tackle in free agency and the best tight end in free agency. They had to throw money in it, but they got their guy.
All right, when we come back, Mary-Kay will talk about the 2020 season and see if there's more activity even before the draft and what they'll be looking for in the draft. We'll do that when we get back. Did you know that the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the last 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and they're winning. The winning is happening all over the state of Ohio. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. We'll come back in a moment. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. We pose a question, you respond, and you put it on the air. It's that easy. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively with Mary-Kay-Cabot on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Birthdays for today: Gino Cappelletti, born on this date, the great New England Patriot; Wayne Embry, former Cavaliers general manager; Bill Payer, I got to worry about that these days; Marcus Allen, John Stockton seen on the left, and Von Miller. Pretty good birthday date. We've had some stiff ones in recent days, but we recovered on the 26th of March. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Mary-Kay-Cabot of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, with us covering the Cleveland Browns for around 28 years or so, and does a terrific job and gets the respect of everybody around the NFL. Mary Kay, the Browns announced, or the word got out about Chris Hubbard, that they have renegotiated his contract. It seems to me he's taken a pretty big hit based on what he thought he was going to be getting.
Well, he was going to be making starting right tackle money, and he's no longer the starting right tackle. Jack-Conklin has taken that job. So Chris Hubbard is sticking around as the swing tackle, and it's not a bad chunk of change to make for a backup guy who probably won't be starting games. He does have some incentives in the deal, whereby if he does start games, he can make up to $5 million in 2020. But as for right now, it's a $2.5 million deal if he's a backup.
Well, why would he want it? Usually in a case like that, the player is not very happy with the coach, with the GM and the organization and all. But what did he do? Take a look at things and just say, you know what, I got a bird in the hand, rather than two in the bush.
I think so. I mean, it's a good job, and he has an opportunity to make up some money in incentives. Again, he can make up to $5 million if he plays. So, I don't know if they'll give him an opportunity to play some at right guard. That I think is at least something to take a look at. So if he gets in some games, that's another how many ever hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions for him.
All right. Trent Williams' agent made it clear this week that Williams wants to be traded or released. What would it cost the Browns if they're interested in would it be worth it to go after him? It's 31 years old, 10 NFL seasons, and he wants a new contract. What do you think?
I think it's worth pursuing. I really do. First of all, they really have to leave no stone unturned in their bid to improve this football team. So absolutely 100%, I think that they need to be looking into this. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He played for Bill Callahan in Washington. So Bill Callahan, the Browns offensive line coach, knows him very, very well. I think that it would basically be like having a Joe Thomas step back in there at left tackle. You would know that Baker-Mayfield's line side would be protected more than adequately, and I think it's definitely something worth pursuing.
Well, it's a name out there, no question about that. However, it looks like the draft has some pretty good offensive linemen. What are they thinking now along those lines? Are they thinking drafting linemen, or are they thinking a trade for Williams, or a deal with somebody else?
Well, I think that they really at least are considering or exploring a trade for Trent Williams. And there are several different ways that you can go about it. If you go with a higher pick, you're going to want to sign him to a longer term deal to get your money's worth. If you go with a little bit of a lower pick, you sign him to a little bit of a shorter deal, which is good for him because then he hits the free agent market again. So that could potentially be a win-win. So I think there are a couple ways that you could attack it. And if you do go with a shorter term deal, then maybe you still do go and get one of these left tackles. It's a deep left tackle draft. Maybe you still even take the guy at number 10 overall, knowing that he's going to be your left tackle of the future, groom him for the job, let him grow into the role while Trent Williams holds down the fort for a little while. So plenty of ways to attack this.
You know, Mary Kay, when you take a look at what the Browns have done, at least in theory, you got a bunch of guys signing one-year contracts. That's unusual, but it also sounds like it's a team that the honeymoon period was for last year's team. There's no honeymoon period here for Stefanski. He doesn't get the luxury of that. He better win, and he better win quick.
I think so, but I also think that there will be at least a year where they might not expect them to necessarily go deep into the playoffs or go to the Super Bowl this year. I think anytime you have a first-year system, a first-year head coach, new defensive coordinator, new OC, I don't know if that's the year that you put such incredibly high expectations on a football team, but I do think that in short order that they want a lot of success.
You know, I know from a fan's point of view, listening to them every day and every night, they want to say they're done with it. They'll wait until they see what this team does. And then every time they make a move, they kind of drop that and say, okay, bring it on. Let's start playing. You must run into the same thing.
Yeah, I do. And I think that's the beauty of Browns fans. They love this football team. They're excited. And once again, they never lose faith. They never lose hope. And they always believe that, that success is right around the corner. And in this case, if Baker Mayfield can play well, they just might be right.
You know, you're talking about the combine and going around the league. There are a lot of people think the Browns have made some pretty good moves here in the offseason. Did you hear any negatives also?
No, I really haven't heard any negatives. I think one of the only concerns that I heard from a few people here and there were that, there were some worries about, Andrew Berry taking over at the age of 32, a new coach at the age of 37. Once again, it's a little unorthodox. It's a little bit new to try what they're trying to do. But it seems like at least everyone's on the same page now. They're all pulling in the same direction. And I do think it will be vastly different than it was under the Sashi Brown years.
All right. Talking about Kevin Stefanski and his quarterback, Baker Mayfield, I know he's got Case-Keenum backing it up, but he's got to make it work here with Baker, doesn't he?
Well, that's the plan. That is the plan. He 100% believes that the sky is the limit for Baker Mayfield. Andrew Berry was actually part of drafting Baker Mayfield and was completely on board with that decision. A lot of people forget that he was here for that because we attribute that to John Dorsey. But Andrew Berry was still around for that. And so it's not like he doesn't have any affinity at all for Baker Mayfield. He does. He sees what Baker Mayfield can do and what the potential is. And I think when you even just go ahead.
Yeah, and he wants to make it go. He doesn't want to go through that quarterback search again.
No, I mean, if you have your quarterback, and we've even heard Jimmy Haslam talk about it this offseason, when you have your quarterback, you're so far ahead of the game, and they feel like they have that. And I do remember when we asked Jimmy, why is this different than the Sashi Brown years? And he said, because we have the quarterback. So the whole organization believes that they have that. Even though Baker's coming off a horrible year, I think everyone believes he can get it turned around this year.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Mary-Kay-Cabot is with us. You can also email us during the show at real-les-levine@gmail.com. By now you've heard about Northeast Factory Direct. They've got 3 locations plus a great website you'll want to check out. East, west, and south. The West 140th Street on the west side, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, Freeway Drive, that's in Macedonia, and of course, northeastfactorydirect.com. We've been telling you how you can save a lot of money, and not only do we tell you that, we back it up with a guaranteed price guarantee. You buy something from Northeast Factory Direct, you find out somebody else advertising it for less money, they'll refund that difference immediately. That's the way Alex has done it. He's done it for 20 years, and one of the great success stories in all of Cleveland merchandising. We'll come back in a moment. 216-575-0403. More Sports and Les-Levine with Mary-Kay-Cabot, exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate
Great
Naturestone's
stuff, Mary Kay.
30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. There's coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Mary-kay-cabot with us. Mary-Kay, Austin Hooper signed with the Browns, the highest paid tight end in the NFL at this point anyway. And we mentioned earlier that he talked to some former Browns players, Cameron Jordan and Gary Barnidge, and they said a lot of good things about the Cleveland area and the Cleveland Browns organization.
Yeah, and those were genuine things that those guys said. Both of those guys were big fan favorites while they were here. They loved their time here. Gary Barnidge used to do things with the movies where he would go out and host movie nights with fans and answer questions and things like that. Jordan Cameron was very active in the community, and those guys really meant what they said. And I think that really says a lot. And I think these guys are really, really excited to come here and to play for the Cleveland Browns. And again, I think we're seeing a little bit of a culture shift. I think John Dorsey did take some chances on a lot of players that were a little bit of a handful. And I think that Andrew Berry and Kevin-Stefanski will add guys onto the team that might be a little bit, in some cases, less difficult to deal with.
Well, here's what Austin Hooper had to say. He said, no question, being in a position that's dependent upon getting balls from the quarterback, it was definitely a part of the process for me. Playing against Baker-Mayfield live, seeing his arm and seeing his competitive spirit and the way he rallies the guys around him, that's what sold me on him before I was obviously a free agent. He's talking about what happened when he was with Atlanta, and the Browns put a pretty good whipping on them in that game, and Hooper hasn't forgotten it. So then you have the next one, Jack-Conklin, who is from Michigan and a Big Ten guy, and he was a walk-on, believe it or not. And he says, I'm a big fan of Baker. That was an easy choice when I think about it. And I think he can do and what I want to be is a part of the offense with him at the helm. So starting off on a pretty good note right there.
Yeah, people do want to come to a place where there is a good quarterback. And that means a lot. It means a lot to coaches. It means a lot to other players. Because if you have the quarterback, you're going to win football games, and chances are people will have a job the following year. So that's important to everyone. And I think it almost seems like most people are giving Baker Mayfield a pass on what happened last year. And I think in some cases he deserves that pass because it was basically a disaster. They had no cohesion in terms of the offensive scheme. There was a disconnect between, Freddie Kitchens and Todd Monken and just, the receiver room and the quarterback room. They just weren't on the same page. So I think now they're all aligned. They're all moving in the same direction. Case-Keenum talked a lot about that yesterday as well. And I think that things will flow a lot more smoothly.
Well, here's what he said. There is no uncertainty in the quarterback room. We're going to speak with one voice, the same voice, be on the same page. If Baker's shoelace comes untied and he needs to get a drink of Gatorade at the water station, I'm going to be ready to go. He's telling you in case there's an injury, he'll be all right. Nobody's had an injury from drinking Gatorade, I don't think. But normally, you lose your quarterback for the rest of the season at any point injury-wise. You have no chance in games in the NFL, but at least Keenum gives you a chance.
Absolutely 100%. The Browns can feel confident in knowing that if anything happens to Baker Mayfield, they can plug Case-Keenum right in there, and he can go out there and win football games. How do they know that? Because once again, he went 11-3 for Kevin Stefanski as his quarterbacks coach with the Vikings in 2017, led them all the way to the NFC Championship game. Now, he hasn't won a ton of games since then, but it's hard to go to Washington when they are completely challenged and win football games. He went 1-7 there last year. In Denver the year before, he went 6-10. But I think if you put him back into Kevin Stefanski's scheme with this supporting cast, I think he would have success. And some of the things that stood out to me when we talked to Case-Keenum yesterday, he's not ready to be put out to pasture by any stretch of the imagination. And I kind of pressed him on that a little bit because he talked about, hey, I didn't want to go sit behind a Tom Brady. I didn't want to go sit behind a Phillip Rivers. He still believes that he can win at a very high level in the NFL. And so I kind of got him, going a little bit on, well, if you want to win at a high level, are you sure you're coming in here and being overly thrilled with just being a backup? And he insists that, that he is embracing this role. He understands it. He's ready to mentor and do all those sorts of things. But if called upon, he can win.
Talking about a backup quarterback coming here, maybe a free agent coming in here. I said this last week that when Stefanski and his people got here, they're looking over the roster and looking over the tape, and they got to be saying, you know what, this is better. This is not a 6-10 football team. This is a team that the cupboard is not bare. And I think that these coaches and this head coach come in here thinking with the right coaching, if they coach them up, they come up with a couple of extra wins to go on top of the 6-10 from last year.
Oh, I know, absolutely. They feel that way. And if you just look at some of the analytics of what went on last year, there are very distinct places where you can see that Baker Mayfield can have a lot more success if you just do certain things like run more play action. He was vastly more productive with play action than without it. And Freddie Kitchens did not run enough play action. Also, 2 tight end sets, which Kevin Stefanski is very fond of. They ran 2 tight end sets in Minnesota 57% of the time last year. And when Baker is in 2 tight end sets, his statistics are absolutely wonderful. I think it was something like 9 touchdowns against only 3 interceptions. Yeah. Well, but they didn't do that very much here.
No, there's more to it. When Stefanski looks at it, he says, all right, you got Beckham and Landry. That's a twosome there. You got a great running twosome also. And he likes the tight end situation. Offensively, I'm not sure he needs all that much more. You plug in one offensive lineman, all of a sudden you got a team that people don't want to prepare for. Defensively is maybe another story, which we'll talk about when we get back. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Tri-C is the place to check out with all the they ranked 10th in the nation in conferring associate degrees in health profession and also related sciences. Go to tric-edu for more information. We'll come on back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Let's take a look at this date in sports history, March 26, 1979, one of the big landmark games in all of sports. Michigan State beats Indiana State 75-64 to win the NCAA basketball championship. Magic Johnson scores 24 points for Michigan State. Larry Bird pops in 19. Didn't have a great game in that one. That was for Indiana State, and that's one of the classic games in the history of college basketball and perhaps in all sports. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Mary-Kay-Cabot is joining us tonight. We appreciate that very much. And tomorrow night, our weekend winners with Dave Bacon can be seen here between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, Mary-Kay, your work is cut out for you with the draft coming in. If you thought you were getting a rest, you're not. Now it gets real serious. The Browns at number 10. You think they're going to take a look at this and try to play the smartest guy in the room, or do you think they're going to just take what's there for them, which should be an offensive lineman?
You know, ultimately, even though I do think that they will explore this Trent Williams trade, and depending on what the Redskins decide to do, maybe they'll even cut him loose, who knows? Depending on how that shakes out, I think in the end, ultimately, that the Browns probably will still take an offensive lineman, a left tackle at number 10 overall. There are so many good ones. There will be one available to them at number 10, I believe, that they really like. And it just seems to make so much sense to do that. And to be set, as long as you nail it, to be set for the next decade or so with a great left tackle. Now, of course, you have to be as good as Phil Savage was when he drafted Joe Thomas, or almost that good, to be able to have that position nailed down for the next decade. But it almost seems like it's set up for that.
All right, let's take a look at number 10. Let's see what is available to the Browns if they don't play around and trade up or trade down and all that. Tristan-Wirfs, an offensive tackle from Iowa. There you see the information on him. He's got to be a guy they're interested in, right?
Yes, definitely. There's about 5 guys that they're seriously considering at number 10 overall, and Tristan is definitely one of them.
All right, how about mekhi-becton? What do you think about him? What do you think the Browns are thinking about him out of the offensive tackle out of Louisville?
You know, he's so good that I don't even know if he'll be around at number 10. I actually think that he could probably go higher than that. He's a big, massive man, and somebody that they definitely have their eye on. The tricky part is they can't bring these guys in for their 30 visits, so that hurts.
Right. All right, let's take a look at another player that the Browns should be interested in, Isaiah-Simmons, and he's a linebacker out of Clemson. I mean, it seems to me the obvious thing is take the offensive lineman if you can, but this is a guy I might make an exception for.
Absolutely. He's so intriguing. He can do so many things. He's so versatile. He can play linebacker. He can play safety. He's a modern day hybrid defender that you can really use to cover those tight ends and do the things you need to do in this passing age. So he would be really an exciting and intriguing prospect. I don't think he'll last until number 10, but he's somebody that you could mess around, maybe trade up to try to get if you end up trading for Trent Williams.
All right, how about a linebacker that would if they would sign him, it would be one of the most popular moves that the Browns have made, at least since they've come back, and I'm talking about Clay Matthews. If he can still play the game, would you take him? I mean, that's a no-brainer to me.
Sure, it would be great to have another Clay Matthews around here and to be able to say that I covered father and son. That wouldn't make me feel too old, would it now? But
well, yeah, a little bit.
But, I think that, I think Clay probably still does have plenty left in the tank. I think the thing that, when you look at the Browns right now, they don't seem to be investing a whole lot of money in the linebacker position, but maybe they can make an exception for Clay.
Right. Well, they didn't sign up a couple linebackers that they had already, and it makes you look. It's kind of a scary thing to go into the season if that's all they're going to have. But hasn't the position of linebacker just changed over the years? Where it's, if you rank the different positions or units on offense and defense, the linebacker is going to be near the bottom in today's NFL.
Yes, and that is why that Joe Schobert did not get a big contract from the Cleveland Browns. It's why they let him walk and go to the Jacksonville Jaguars for $10.5 million, which really isn't all that much money for a Pro Bowl linebacker. But again, they are not allocating their resources in that spot right now. What they're doing is they're spending their money on in quarterback-centric ways, either on their own quarterback to protect him or support him, or to try to affect, disrupt, and get to the opponent's quarterback. So you'll therefore see them spend probably $15.5 million again on Olivier Vernon next year, which I think is a little bit too much, because he can rush the passer as opposed to a Joe Schobert.
For some reason, I think he's gone already, and talking about Vernon. And then we put our list together and say, well, wait a minute, he's still here.
Mm-hmm. I know everybody seems to think he's gone, and maybe that's in part my fault, because I keep saying every time I go on something that I can't imagine that they're going to keep Olivier Vernon around at 15.5. But the more I thought about it, the more I analyzed it. I mean, would you rather have him or go out and try to pay a Jadeveon Clowney $20 million a year? If he can stay healthy, he can be a good complement to Myles Garrett, and you could do worse if you go out and try to sign one.
Mary-Kay, in a word or two, looking at the offense and the defense and what Stefanski wants to do, can you put a word or two to describe what they, in an ideal world, what they want?
Offensively,
yeah,
I can say West Coast and sort of Gary Kubiak. That's what they're doing offensively, and there's no debate about that. Defensively, they're going to run a 4-3 front, and they're going to be very attacking, and they're going to go for the ball. I got Joe Woods talking about that a little bit at his introductory press conference. They're going to be an attack-minded defense that will aggressively go after the football. It's kind of what you saw him do in San Francisco.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Mary-Kay-Cabot with us, cleveland.com, and the Plain Dealer. I don't need to go to phone calls when I've got her. Why would we mess up a good thing here? Mary-Kay-Cabot still with us, and in the next segment, in addition to continue to talk about the Browns, we got some footage for you. If you're a Cleveland Indians fan or a baseball fan, you're going to want to stay tuned for that. When you talk about cheap furniture at the Northeast Factory Direct, you're talking about the price you're going to pay, not about the quality of the furniture. We've been talking about Northeast for a long time now, and people ask me if they have just cheap stuff. Is that the big selling point, the price? No, well, in part it is, but they also carry high-quality name-brand furniture like Flex Steel, England, Klausner, and much more. And as well as Amos furniture made right here in Northeast Ohio. You can't get higher quality than that. And they have furniture for any budget, whether you're buying starter furniture for your first apartment or for a mansion. They've got it at Northeast Factory Direct, east, west, and south, as well as their website you want to check out, northeastfactorydirect.com. Sokolowski's University, and I've been talking about them for almost as long as Mary Kay has been covering the Cleveland Browns. And now they're serving orders to go, pickup to go. Right just outside of downtown Cleveland. And they're open Tuesday. They're not open on Mondays, but they're open till 7 o'clock on the rest of the week. You want to check them out. They deserve your support, but they earn it with just great people and a great restaurant. It won the James Beard Foundation Award back about 3-4 years ago. And that's the most prestigious award you can get in the restaurant business. We'll come back in a moment. We'll take a look at some baseball highlights and more, and our Facebook question of the day. When we get back, More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Well, today was supposed to be opening day for the Cleveland Indians and the rest of baseball. Obviously, that did not happen. But we asked you today on our Facebook question of the day, what is your favorite opening day moment? Doug Uido, I believe I pronounced it correctly. My first opening day, 1971, Gomer Hodges' single in the last of the ninth inning scores the tying and winning runs and for the win. And it was attended. He's attended many home openers after that, but it was the most memorable. I think my mom letting us skip school was part of the big thrill. Gomer Hodges got 4 hits in a row over a couple of games, and he said he was hitting 4,000. Len Gold says, I took my 2 boys to the opener in 1992 against the Red Sox. It lasted 19 innings. We lost. When we came home, my wife said, where have you been? Doug Edwards, 3 friends and myself, myself and 3 friends, part of the over 74,000 in 1973 to see the Tribe beat Detroit 2-1. We got there early enough to get seats in the upper boxes along the first baseline. Michael Cirolo, foreshadowing the beer night riot, people throwing snowballs at George Scott. I don't know what year that was. Marty Simon says, my first was the Rocky Calabito Harvey Keene trade, and us old-timers can't forget that one. Gregory Mees says, Frank Robinson's home run. John Marusa, my dad took my brother and I out of school to watch player-manager Frank Robinson hit the home run with 2 strikes on him. And Robert Miller, opening day 74, player-manager Frank Robinson hit the home run against the Yankees, I believe off Doc Medich. That's correct, but that's my memory. It's not at Google telling me who did it. Let's take a look at that one of the most famous plays in Cleveland Indian history. Player-manager Frank Robinson batting in the second hole in the opening game against Doc Medich and the New York Yankees.
Gerald Ford enters his final year as President of the United States. Former Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa is reported missing, and Jack Nicholson is a hit at the box office in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The year is 1975, and our Indians are making baseball history. On April 8th, opening day at Municipal Stadium, Frank Robinson debuts as a player-manager of the Indians. He becomes the first African-American manager in Major League history. Robinson, the manager, decides that Robinson, the player, gives the Indians the best chance of winning, so he puts himself in the opening day lineup.
A Hollywood scriptwriter wouldn't try to put something like this into a movie. And the funniest thing about it, the ironic thing about it, is that before the game, Phil Segui said to Frank, hey, one last thought, Skip, why don't you hit a home run on your first time at bat?
Robinson takes the advice to heart. In his very first at-bat against the New York Yankees' Doc Medich, Robinson, the player, makes Robinson, the manager, look like a genius.
They had television cameras, they had still cameras, and he literally had to wade through
all the cameras get the home plate, and then he hits the home run off Doc Medich. I mean, you talk about a pressure situation and somebody rising to the occasion. That was one of the more dramatic moments.
And when he hit that home run, it was like the skies had opened up and everything was perfect. And though I often been in times before that, I knew that at that point there was a God up in heaven.
Robinson's homer remains one of the most memorable moments from the Indians' days at Municipal Stadium.
I need a decision by you. What was uglier, the stadium or the uniforms they were wearing that day?
Is that for me?
Yeah. What was uglier, the uniforms or the stadium?
I didn't mind the uniforms. I'll go with the stadium.
Yeah. Hey, how did you like, as you look back on your career covering the Browns for so many years, the stadium wasn't as bad as we made it out to be for football.
No, it wasn't. It had its little quirks and its little foibles.
Right.
But no, it wasn't. It went right along with Cleveland and the tradition and old school and all those kinds of things.
What happened as you were growing up and thinking what you wanted to do for a living? How did football get into the equation?
Well, I majored in journalism at Kent State, and my dad, first of all, was the biggest sports fan in all of Cleveland, for everything that you can possibly think of. It was he was the biggest Indians fan, Browns, Ohio State, you name it. So I grew up around it every single day of my life. Something was always on. It was always being discussed and talked about. But it really wasn't something that a young girl grew up thinking about back then, because it was a man's job. So I didn't really think about it. But then when I did my internship, I went to Kent State, majored in journalism. They offered me an internship in sports, and I was overjoyed and thrilled, and basically blazed a trail in many respects. And now to this day, when I see all the females in sports, and I wasn't the first, there were a few before me, but now when I see all the females in sports, all over ESPN, all over everywhere, really, I do take a little bit of pride in the fact that, I think I was able to literally kick down some doors in some cases, and try to kind of blaze a trail for some young girls that, had a dream of also doing.
Well, you've certainly done that and done it very well. Was there a specific incident that happened that made you believe that you belong there, whether you had received criticism or not? Is there something you said, there, I can do it?
You know what? I don't think that there was a specific incident, but I mean, I do take a lot of pride now in, even just if you look at my amount of Twitter followers, I think out of regular beat writers, NFL beat writers in the country, I'm way up high on the list. And I think that's because of sheer hard work. I think a lot of females in this business, we actually sometimes probably go the extra mile. We work so hard at this because we still feel we really need to prove ourselves in what is really still a male-dominated world. So we take a lot of grief. We take a lot of abuse from people in some corners, but we're tough enough to handle it. And I think that's another thing that I'm proud of, and a lot of other people are too.
And you're not being handed stuff either, as some male members of your fraternity might have done over the years. But you got to dig for everything you get. In some ways, that's not fair, but you overcome that pretty well.
Well, the other thing that about covering the Cleveland Browns that has been a little challenging over the years is the fact that there's so much turnover. So, we joked earlier about how there's so many different coaches that have coached for the Cleveland Browns when you walk around the combine or somewhere like that. When you look at a team like Pittsburgh Steelers that have had stability in their front office and their coaching staff, you can develop relationships with those people. You develop a trust, you get to know them. And, there's just there's a mutual respect. But what happens here in Cleveland, every year or two, they blow the whole thing up, and we have to try all over again to develop new relationships. So it's like Phil Dawson having to kick in Cleveland Browns Stadium when it comes to, looking back and grading how you think you did.
216-575-0403 if you want to get in for the last segment of the show with Mary-Kay-Cabot. You are more than welcome to that. If you can't call us when the show is on live from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern, you can call us anytime at the voicemail of Truth and Reason number, 216-200-6650. Call anytime during the day, and We'll edit it down, and we'll be happy to air it for you on the voicemail of Truth and Reason. More Sports and Less Levine continues. One more time, we'll check some How Come Quickies, get some final thoughts from Mary-Kay-Cabot. More Sports and Less Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. Mary-Kay-Cabot is with us, covers the Browns, has covered them for 28 years. Let's go to the phones. We'll go to Reynoldsburg, Ohio. We'll say hi to Mike. Mike, go ahead. You're on the air. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. You're on with Mary Kay.
Yep, you're a great show. Very good show tonight. Appreciate Frank Robinson and Mary Kay's background. Hey, Mary Kay, here's the question. Is Hubbard going to move to right guard, you think? And also
I
the
think
rookie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and also the rookie last year that had the knee surgery. Is he looking for a position too on the inside?
Well, first of all, as far as Chris Hubbard is concerned, I think more so it's set up for him to be the swing tackle. I don't know if they have him penciled in to be their right guard. I really don't see it like that at this point, but I don't know for sure. Hopefully, we will have an opportunity to ask some of these questions very soon of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Normally, by now, we would have had a press conference with them about some of these moves. We haven't had a chance to do that yet because of obvious reasons, but hopefully we'll have some of those answers for you soon. I think that they're still going to be looking for their right guard at this point. And then the rookie that had the knee surgery, I'm not exactly sure.
He was from Montana or Wyoming. What's his name?
Drew Forbes. Oh, yes. Drew Forbes is definitely a candidate for that right guard job. Yes, Drew Forbes is somebody to definitely to keep an eye on there. Yes, 100%.
Okay. And the other question is, do you think there was enough time for general managers to evaluate the college prospects coming out, or do you think they need more time since they don't have any one-on-one?
You know what? It seems to me that the draft is going to go on as scheduled and start on April 23rd. And I think that teams right now are hunkering down, preparing for that draft. I think they're going to be ready. The only thing that they didn't get to do was bring in the guys for their top 30 visits. But what they're able to do is have teleconferences with those guys. They can't give them the medical examinations that they wanted to give them when they came to town. But they're having teleconferences with them. And they're just going to have to make do because I think it's going to go on as scheduled.
You think the Browns are at a disadvantage because of the new staff and all that, or do they have enough left over from their research before?
It remains to be seen. I mean, a lot of talent evaluating experience walked out the door when John Dorsey, Elliott Wolf, Alonzo Highsmith, and Steve Malin left the building. That's a lot to lose before the draft, but I know Andrew Berry feels ready for this. He brought in Ryan Griggs in to help him, and there are a lot of guys left from before. They feel ready.
All right, in the next couple of weeks, leading up to the draft and just past the draft, would you say, if you look back at it with 2020 hindsight, would you say that the Browns had done something in the trade market, in the free agent market, or they just did the draft the way it fell in the slots? What do you think happens in the next month or so?
You know, I think the only sort of big splashy move that I could see happening is if they do make some kind of a deal for Trent Williams. Other than that, I think they're kind of hunkering down and really getting ready for that draft and trying to figure out who they're going to take at number 10 overall.
All right, and if Baker Mayfield isn't the answer, what happens then? If I twisted your arm behind your back, would you say Baker has a good year, has a bad year, or average, and then they've got decisions to make?
You know, I think Baker's going to have a good year. I do think he's going to have a good year. I think that he has enough of a skill set. He's got that big arm. He's got the shiftiness, the mobility. He's normally very accurate. I think these guys are going to bring out the best in Baker Mayfield, and that he'll have a good year.
You think a lot of the problems that he had off the field with personalities, that was the frustration of the way the season was going, with whether it was because of Freddie Kitchens or just that he got beat up a little bit during the season as it wore on. Do you think he's looking at that as far as teammates and the media? Do you think we'll have more problems, or do you think it'll smooth itself out?
I think it'll smooth itself out. I think that Freddie Kitchens just really wasn't running. He was running a dysfunctional offense last year. He was at odds with he and Todd Monken were not on the same page. The quarterback room was at a little bit of a disconnect with like the receiver room. I mean, it was basically a mess. I mean, I've heard people tell me that they've never been involved with something that was as dysfunctional in their careers. So I think it's going to be a completely different season for Baker and the rest of the offense.
Well, when I heard that they had a game plan set up, and then 20 plays in or 15 plays in, all of a sudden they throw that out and players didn't know what was coming. How is that possible to happen in the NFL?
Well, what happens is, when they would stick to the script, the first 15, 20 scripted plays, Freddie was fine there. But once you got beyond that, he was basically lost. And why wasn't it that way the year before? Because those guys, the previous staff had him set up so well to go in there. They made it very, very easy for him. And it just, again, there were so many disconnects and so much dysfunction on the offense last year. Nobody did know what to expect once they went off script.
So he never had a chance. As we got down to the last couple of weeks of the season, the reality is he never had a chance of sticking around for this season.
No, I don't think so. I think that ship had sailed by the time they got to that point.
Yeah. All right, Mary-Kay, thanks so much. You were terrific as always, and we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully we can grab you on many more times as the season progresses. Stay safe.
Sure, I hope so too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Mary-Kay-Cabot does a terrific job with cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. All right, that'll do it for us. Maybe we'll get to the quickies today. We'll get to them Monday. And we'll do it again. Dave Bacon tomorrow with the weekend winners. You want to check that one out. We'll be back on Monday. I don't know who will be here, but we will be. And stay safe out there, and hope to see you soon. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.